Croatia is trying, as a country of the European Union, to achieve some influence, and now it's a big issue of Serbian-Croatian relations. But, objectively, I don't believe in some kind of war. Maybe wrong, because you never know if foreigners can organize a war, and that's something else. They also organized the war in Yugoslavia. Let's not joke about it. Germany and the Vatican were strictly on the side of Slovenia and Croatia during the secession from Yugoslavia. According to the testimony of Joseph Coutilheiro, the Portuguese diplomat, who he described in his book, Warren Zimmerman, the American diplomat, asked Alija Izetbegovic to withdraw his signature on the so-called Lisbon Agreement, and the withdrawal of that signature caused subsequent war in Bosnia and Herzegovina. This is not something I'm making up, it's something you can read in the said diplomat's book. So, the Americans as warmongers can do it again with our military service and without our military service. So I see the organization of military service again as nothing but a charade that aims to mask all those problems in our society about whom we spoke. How do you see the influence of foreign powers here? I mean, first of all, the influence of Russia. We know a lot about the Americans, but how did we get to the situation that from the Russian consul Grigor Shcherbin, the man who returned the celebration of Orthodox Festa to the Serbs while we were under Turkish occupation, now to Bocan Hrščenko, a man who is absolutely ready to support anything that Alexander Vučić says, no matter how bad it is for us to support lithium mining. In this case, in the biological survival of our people is in question. The Russian ambassador will also that absolutely supports. Vučić takes him around Serbia as if he is a member of the main board of the Serbian ruling party and not an ambassador of one of the world's powers.
Pa izgleda je to jedino pitanje na svetu u kome se ruski i američki ambasador slažu ovo oko Rio Tinta. Koliko ja shvatam, Hill takođe podržava kopanje, a podržava i Bocan Hrčenko, tako da u ovom opštem ratu koji vode praktično američke države i Rusija preko ove strahovite pogibije naroda u Ukrajini i tako dalje, izgleda to je jedina stvar oko koje se oni slažu, što ovako deluje anegdotski zanimljivo. Mislim da ruska politika je stavila sve karte na Vučić-Brnabić režim. Zašto je ona to učinila?
It seems to be the only issue in the world on which the Russian and American ambassadors agree. This about Rio Tinto. As far as I understand, Christopher Hill also supports mining, and Botan Hrščenko supports as well. So, that is this general war that America and Russia are practically waging through these terrible deaths of people in Ukraine. It seems that this is the only thing they agree on, which seems interesting. I think that Russian policy has put all the cards on the Vučić and his regime in Serbia. The seal of that role is the order of Alexander Nevsky, which Russian President Vladimir Putin presented to Alexander Vučić here. That assessment can turn out to be wrong. If it's turned out to be wrong, a question arises that is difficult to answer even in other countries, and in Russia especially. And the question is, who is to blame? Who is guilty? In order to avoid those questions, you have activities that, in my opinion, compromise Russian politics here in Serbia. Don't forget that Russian politics and the Russian state have some general natural acceptance here. Our people have a Russophile attitude that has lasted at least since the time of the Peter the Great, and it reached its culmination in the time of Nicholas I, when Russia is the most powerful, and then small enslaved Slavic people like the Serbs hope for the liberation that their big brother will bring them. Prince Miloš was a great diplomat, but he was so good because Russia was the dominant power in Europe at that time. With the Peace of Akraman, it practically reached the gates of Constantinople. This is why France and England helped Turkey in the Crimean War, so that Russia would not become a hegemon. Soviet policy was anti-Serbian, guided by ideological reasons. I think that now Russia should change such policy, but as we can see, it is now guided by inertia.
Kako vidite ulogu Srpske pravoslavne crkve danas? Željko Mitrović, vlasnik televizije Pink, proglasio je sebe za sveca, napravio je tu vilu na Dedinju, već će biti ne znam šta, meni je to ovako nejasno, ali kako vidite ulogu njih po pitanju toga, obzirom da je patrijarh njemu dao blagoslov za televiziju Pink, to su ljudi uglavnom zaboravili da je on tada bio deo REM-a, RRA, kako se već tada zvalo, i da je on blagoslovio Željka Mitrovića. Ne ovo da ga se proglasi za sveca, ali ga je blagoslovio dodelom nacionalne frekvencije. To je jedna stvar. Druga stvar, kako vidite da Srpska pravoslavna crkva ne reaguje ni na ovo što se događa na Kosovu i Metohiji, ni na rudarenje litijuma, svaka čast pojedincima, sveštenicima, ali u globalu ko su ti ljudi koji čine danas Srpsku pravoslavnu crkvu ako su na ove stvari spremni da ćuti. Znači, govorimo o biološkom opstanku, govorimo o gubitku naroda, o gubitku teritorije, a oni ćute.
I can say here what I have already said several times, which is that the hierarchy of Serbian Orthodox Church is too dependent of the ruling regime of Vučić-Brnabić, and I think that is not a good church policy. However, on the other hand, we should not identify the church with its hierarchy. Everyone in the church can be criticized. Throughout history, there were many priests and bishops who did not behave in a consistent and God-pleasing manners. They were Panariots, they were communist elected bishops, but 8 centuries of existence make up the church a witness of the time, and as such is very responsible for the survival of Serbian national identity. Therefore, we cannot attack the church as such for the action of its hierarchy or administration. So her merits are indisputable, and that's why I would always individualize the blame on the leadership of the church, on the patriarch, the bishops, on the administration, and never on the church as a whole. Here, take the example of even the French church. Since the French bourgeois revolution, the French church has been really marginal in France itself. French is a very secular society. The revolutionaries have dealt brutally with church in France. Even that French church spoke out about the so-called satanic performance during the opening of the Olympics Games in Paris and expressed regret. That's about all they could do. That was its capacity. And here we see a very dramatic situation where you have a huge number of people on the streets of Serbia. The hierarchy of Serbian Orthodox Church does not react. It is completely silent, as if nothing is happening.
A evo vidimo da ovde u dramatičnim okolnostima, da imate ogroman broj ljudi na ulicama, hierarhija ne ćutanje vezano
to the policy of silence regarding the genocide against the Serbs, what was committed in Jasenovac, these days Croatia, and to the shameful behavior of the Bishop of Slavonski, Mr. Chulibrok, who is trying to diminish the Serbian victims. I can say that the behavior of the Church after the death of two important bishops, Metropolitan Amfilohije and Bishop Atanasije Jevtić, has lost a lot. With their death, there was a victory of mediocrity in the assembly of the Serbian Orthodox Church, where the current bishops only manage technical affairs and are not at the level of the historical role of the Church, not to mention that they are not at the level of the religious role of the Church that is connected with the revelation of Christ, etc. So I have a very negative opinion about the hierarchy of our Church.
Osnovnih stvari koje se nalaze u tom iskustvu. Tako da ja imam negativno mišljenje o hijerarhiji.
Kako vidite ovo što se tiče televizije Pink? Da li tu može doći do raskola unutar crkve na ovaj estradno-pravoslavni deo, obzirom na vezanost patrijarha sa srpskom estradom?
I don't think that there can be a schism, because I'm not a supporter of the schism as well, but I think that it only future undermines the reputation and chair of Saint Sava, where the Patriarch sits, and entire position of the Church within our people.